Hi, and a very good morning to you. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, before we get into the video today for you, we're going to be talking about the temperature, having a look at some jet streams, and just figuring out what this spells out for us at this present time and what we can expect in the future. But before we do that, as always, a huge thanks to just a few people that are, supporting what we're doing at one of the worst points of time in the year for us here at the observatory. When Christmas comes on its own, the funding gets reduced, but even more so now we're in times of this climate with COVID-19. So let's get into it. Well, just look at what we're looking at. These are the sub-zero temperatures both over the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, and there's one simple question I want to ask you guys is look at the conditions and the extent of coverage with the sub-zero temperatures. Where do we grow our crops? Another thing is, where is the majority of the people living in this world? And you'll probably say to yourselves, just like I will, it is underneath all that sub-zero temperature regions. We are losing our arable cropping land. This is the food bowl of the world being halved. And I know already, guys, what you might be thinking, well, this is the winter, Gene. I agree with you, but we see in the summertime floods and droughts, unexpected weather anomalies brought along by the extra cosmic radiation inbound in our atmosphere. If I just move over so you can see the jet streams of the Earth, it really gives us a picture of what it really is taking place on our planet. As you know, if you've been following the channel, we don't really have distinguishable polar and subtropical jet streams both over the northern and southern hemispheres anymore of our planet. Reason for that is very likely down to the extra inbound cosmic radiation. I'm just looking at, over the northern hemisphere to the left hand side of the screen, that trailing jet stream which is coming across the equatorial region, which is rare for that, but becoming more common. This is an interchange between northern hemispheric weather and southern hemispheric weather. This is what we are having to cope with now. This is why we're seeing the prices rise in the shops, and this is why we're seeing exporters of staple foods around the world now becoming importers, and some passing legislation within the governments to ban exports of these because they're much more needed at home for some of these countries. If we have a look what's gone on in the air with India, well, there's a classic example. They're starting to wear onions as though they're jewellery now because they're valued that much. This is the sign of the times that we're in, and by all means, as you know, if you've been following this, we're very close to an event which is going to send us deeper into that point. Hopefully we will be in the equilibrium when we get to that 40-degree mark. I'll just bring that up on the chart so you can see. And here is that all important 40-degree mark, and you can see from the 17th to the 11th this month, when we took the last magnetic pole readings, we are getting very, very close to that 40-degree mark. This is where it's theoretically theorised that we will be leaving the strong field lines, which is really what keeps the magnetic North Pole moving slowly as it does, even though in the last 120 years it has been migrating slowly. If we just look at what's happened in the last 30 years, it has covered the same distance as what it did do the previous 90 years, so it is accelerating. And it is theorised that when we get to that 40-degree mark, this will accelerate exponentially. We'll go into the weak field lines, and based on the experiment that I showed you guys, we will quickly move into a reversal stage. And if that is the case, and it works out the way it did in the experiment, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, because it is understood that we have strong and weak field lines of magnetic polarity on our planet. So I'm just saying that we could see it rapidly move from that point when we reach that 40-degree mark. Now the 40-degree mark is measured from the entire movement or migration since the 1900s. So that's the 40 degrees from the point of where it was in Canada at the beginning of the 1900s or the 19th century to where it is today, or albeit 2.7, 2.8 years away. So we're very close. But what will happen at that point, if my theory is correct, the magnetosphere will start to weaken. And that means more cosmic radiation will be inbound. And we've got a big problem, guys, because we're in a grand solar minimum. For the last 33 years, the sun's output has been very minimal. And that means that the heliosphere that the sun produces when it's in a normal active state, and not like it is now, it produces a strong heliosphere. And it's a little bit like the Earth's magnetosphere. The heliosphere is only because the sun is emitting such a lot of radiation. The heliosphere is a lot bigger. It actually covers our solar system. So when that starts to shrink, we get galactic and intergalactic radiation on top of the sun's radiation that we have to deal with. And you can look at it as our first line of defense is the heliosphere, and our primary defense is the magnetosphere. And we are going to see the magnetosphere weaken, and we couldn't have come at a worse point in time, because we're in the same period of when the sun's output is low and our first line of defense is weakening. So what this means is we're getting a double slam of cosmic radiation into our atmosphere, which is creating jet stream problems like we're experiencing and unpredictable climate. And the problem is with that is that it always has a knock-on effect all the way down the line. It's going to cause flash floods. People are not just going to be flooded out their homes in some parts of the world, they're also going to lose the crops. And like I showed you today, if you look at the condition of our Earth, and we know that over the last temperature record of 6,000 years the Earth has actually been cooling, despite what Al Gore tells us, but the Earth is actually cooling. You can see it on a record going back 6,000 years. We're actually cooler than what we was then. We've actually got less carbon in our atmosphere than what we had a couple of 100,000 years ago. And if we go back millions of years, we had a lot more carbon. In fact, the entire atmosphere of the Earth at one point was just majority CO2. So we're facing a lot of problems, guys. It's not just the the rhetoric that is coming from some of these organisations supporting climate change in favour. Like we've heard over the last 20 years where Al Gore's come out and said, the Earth is heating up. If we don't do something soon about it, we're all going to die. We'll lose the ice caps by 2014. Well, we're in 2020. Ice caps are still there, and as you could see, I might as well pull that back up so we get a good look at it. The temperature chart on North School. I think it's put into perspective when we look at this chart and we just take into consideration how much landmass is actually covered in sub-zero temperatures. It almost is probably close on just over half. If we look at the oceans as well, obviously over the northern and southern hemisphere, we have got a good coverage of sub-zero temperatures. And over in the northern hemisphere right now, we are at the furthest tilt from the sun in our progression around the sun, so that's normal. But there is also quite a large region over the southern hemisphere, surprisingly, which is colder than usual, and the extent of the distance that it's extending from the South Pole up towards the equator is larger than usual. If I showed you artist impressions of what an Earth looks like in a glacial period, then all what is blue would be white right now. That would mean that Europe and most of Central and Northern America would be incapable of producing crops. And that just leaves the rest of the landmass that you're looking at right now as arable land, dependent on whether the weather conditions are good for growing. I want to just add the fact that we've got 7 billion people on this planet, and we've had to feed more people now than we ever have, and at the time couldn't be worse, because the land that we use for growing is rapidly reducing. The seasons are becoming unpredictable, and the alarm bells are ringing, guys, because we are seeing farmers all over the world, even in the western parts of the world now, committing suicide as a result that they have been left with no choice other than to gamble in order to put the crops in and hope that they get a crop out at the end of the year so that they can pay the bills. They're no different to us. We're in real dire times, and it is all around us. And 10 years ago it was a lot better climate and things weren't so bad, but just 10 years on to this very present day, look at where we are and how much of a disaster has been caused globally. Why aren't the mainstream media talking about this more? Why is the topic of magnetic pole reversal not mentioned? Why isn't the science invested more into? I really can't answer those questions, guys, other than maybe they know what sort of situation we really face further down the line, and they're not going to be alarmists by warning people, because it's just nice, isn't it, if you can keep the machine turning, the wheels turning in the machine, the cogs greased, up until the point where it's too late. And I suppose it is, as we've seen all these films like 2012, Armageddon, at the last minute you get the president or the prime minister of your country just announce the disaster's on the doorstep and it's about to happen. There are things we can do, and I'm trying my best here at this observatory to keep on top of everything I can. And I know I can't keep everybody happy. We get some people support, we get a lot of people that don't. We get 7,000 people come onto the website where we've got all the dedicated science and research and collected data for this anomaly and other anomalies as well, for their interest. And we get people walk past the donation tab. It's a part of life that we're in. We get some people that are happy to donate a couple of $100, and we get some people that donate £5 and want the world for it. All this I can say is over the last week, I'm not going to go on too much about OBS, but I've had it up to my neck with OBS and trying to adjust the lighting and getting the sound correct. And yeah, I'm going to have people moan about the CPU fan that's kicking off in the background, but we're doing our best with what we've got. And if you've ever paid any attention to what I've delivered, I've always managed to deliver some pretty good results on a stinky low budget. So I'm not being funded by any organisation here. You're lucky that you've got some guy here, Gene, that can do the electronics, build and program the electronics, and we've got a platform on YouTube where we can encourage people like our superstars to take these magnetometers on board and muon detectors and send us the data back. Because I guarantee you one thing, the mainstream organisations aren't doing that for us. So you've got me. I'll do my best, but just bear with me. We are always trying to make the most with what we've got here, and I will continue to do that as long as I'm able to do it. But you know what, can't do it on my own, guys. Sometimes it's going to need to be down to you guys. You're gonna have to help support a little bit with the running costs of things and the making of things. It's just life. Having said that, we are about to go into the brand new month, December, and Christmas is coming, and really this is a time for families. And I'm one of the people in the UK who have had my trimmings up, the Christmas lights up for the last 2 weeks, and I'll tell you why I've done that. Because this COVID-19 has just been so depressing. You can't go out, you can't get ready for Christmas. It's everyone's miserable, everyone's wearing muzzles or masks, and it's just terrible time. It really is. No one could have predicted what this year was going to come out like, and here we are, walking through it. Let's just hope that things change for the better for the beginning of the new year. That's all I want to do, is just put this year completely and well and truly behind me and move on. And I hope the best for you guys in the new year as well. So yeah, let's get on with the work that we've got here during December. And I'll just mention it once, guys. There's a link down there if you want to help support us. It would be massive appreciated. And I'll say what I usually do. You have an amazing day. Take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.